My name is Angel, and welcome back to my little corner of the internet, or if you're new here, welcome for the first time. I hope you stick around. Hello, friends. Okay, so I'm back at my desk with my microphone. I've got some gummy worms with me, so if you see me eating them. So, last month, I uploaded a book tour video where I just showed you my extensive collection of books and how I've hung them up around my room. And in that video, I said I wouldn't be uploading any more in a nutshell videos until the SAG-AFTRA strikes were resolved because my in a nutshell videos are very heavily dependent on screen media and I don't want to risk crossing any picket lines. Now, my understanding of the strike is any media from stricken companies is off limits for reviews and stuff like that. And all of my backlog videos are stuff I watched on Netflix. You can talk about independent projects, but like I said, all the videos I already have recorded are from stuff on Netflix, so I'm not going to post them. However, after doing that book tour video, I realized TV and movie is not the only form of media you consume, baby girl. I'm a book reader all the time. And thus, a new series is born. I think I'm going to call these book clubs. And that's what my brain is. So welcome to Book Club. Now, you'll have to bear with me because obviously my internet show videos are heavily relying on visual representation from the movies and TVs shows that I review on here, but books don't have visual aids. So I'll have to figure that out in post. We'll see how this turns out at the end. I'm probably going to, if this goes well, I will probably continue to do book club videos even after the strike is over because I read a lot and an excuse to talk about the books I've read. How could I possibly pass that up? I'm going to start with the book I showed earlier, A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is a series that I finished earlier this summer. I think I read the last book in July. I'm not necessarily endorsing this book because word on the street is that the author is a Zionist, so I'm not necessarily saying go out and buy this book, but I did read it and I relatively enjoyed reading it, so I want to talk about it. I have done a lot of preamble, so without further ado, here's A Court of Thorns and Roses Book 1, A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is a 5-series book, so this is going to be a couple of videos. But we'll start with book 1. And unlike my regular in a nutshell videos, I will not be doing a character breakdown at the beginning because that's usually just to show you what they look like so that you're not confused in the clips. But they don't have actual visual representations. However, I'm a fan caster when I read. So I will be using visual representation of the characters, but don't use mine as law because this is just how I picture the character. Oh, also, I didn't write a script for this video because I didn't know I was going to be recording this video today until like 2 hours before I sat down to record it. So bear with me on that aspect too. There's a lot going on. I'm so sorry. This video is going to be very all over the place. Got to love my mind. I'm recording this on September 24th. We'll see if I can get it out before September 30th. Listen, I don't know how many days are in each month, but my mom has this little song she taught me as a kid that I still sing to figure out how many days are in any given month. It goes, 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31 except for February. There are so many little jingles I learned from my mom growing up. Anyway, literally none of this is the point. It's time to start talking about A Court of Thorns and Roses. Welcome to A Court of Thorns and Roses, Book 1, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I know I did that a few minutes ago, but I've been talking about other stuff this whole time. So, let's get into it! This book, first things first, is told in first person, okay? And it starts in the middle of something happening, which I love when books and movies and TV shows start in the middle of like, your character is 35 years old. Why are you trying to give me all of the backstory about their life in one go? Like, it's not how the world works, especially because this is first person. So, like, she's not gonna, if she's just thinking in her brain, she's not gonna be like, my name is Farah, I'm 19, my family been broke since I was like 8. These are all real facts about her, by the way, but, like, that's not the point. Okay, so it starts with our main character, Farah. This is how she looks in my head. I don't think that's how she's described in the book. However, that's how I pictured her the whole time I was reading. So, yeah. So that's Farah in my head. So it opens with Farah. She's 19 years old. She's in the woods in the middle of winter. And I started this book on a train. I was on my way to Jersey with my little sister. No, we were on our way to New York. We were in Jersey when I started reading. But I was on my way to New York with my little sister. I pulled out my book. I started reading. And I immediately turned to her. I was like, she's the youngest of 3 siblings, and she got a daddy who's alive. Why is she in the woods? Because we find that out pretty early. She is supporting her 2 older sisters and her father and herself, of course. So she's in the woods. She's trying to hunt. She sees a deer. Farrah plans to shoot this deer. However, a wolf comes stalking towards the deer. And she's like, if that wolf kills that deer, my family will starve. But if I shoot the wolf, the deer will probably run away. So she's sitting there contemplating. Yes, Katniss Everdeen, because she uses a bow and arrow. Yes, Katniss Everdeen. Yes, Merida from Brave. Give it to me. Come with a plan, baby. She comes up with a plan. So she lets the wolf shoot the deer. The wolf bite the deer. Wolves don't use tools. The wolf bites the deer, and then she shoots the wolf. The wolf lets go of the deer. The deer is injured. It can't go nowhere now, but the wolf looks at her. She shoots it again. Kills the wolf. Also, she describes this wolf as very large. So in my head, I'm picturing like a Twilight wolf. See here. Honestly, wolves are genuinely pretty big anyway, but she said it was even bigger than natural, so this is what I'm imagining. A Twilight wolf. So boom, she skins the wolf because she's only 19 and relatively small in my head. I think she's got a relatively small build. So she can't carry the deer and the wolf, and you can't really eat wolf meat. I mean, you could, but that's not as good as deer meat, I guess. So she skins the wolf, wraps the pelt around the dead deer, and carries the deer back home. When she gets there, we meet her sisters, Nesta and Elaine, and her father, whose name I don't remember. Nesta and Elaine are more important. That's why I'm telling you their names. This is how I picture Elaine. We love her. She's the middle sister, very timid. She kind of just is there. She's like cute, does her little art thing. She likes flowers. Farrah is the artist. She paints. And Nesta is the eldest sister and my least favorite character in this book that isn't in some way, shape, or form an antagonist. I hate her so bad. She makes me very viscerally angry for a number of reasons, but I think part of it is because I have a younger sister, and the way she treats Farrah would have me I'd have to fight her. I'd have to scrap on Farrah's behalf. This is Nesta. I didn't have a clear picture for her when I started reading the series, but this is what I ended up with by the time I finished it. Speak of the devil, why my little sister just text me? Anyway. Okay, so we get home, we meet her 2 sisters, Elaine and Nesta, and her father. We now find out that her father is actually crippled. His leg don't work. They used to be pretty well off, like upper class. Their dad was a trader, so they called him the Prince of Merchants or something. And he made a bad deal, and the investors of that deal came to collect their money, and he didn't have their money. So they broke his leg in front of his kids. Their mama died a long while ago. She'd been dead for some years. She died of some sort of disease. We'll call it consumption. It probably wasn't consumption. Listen, this universe is set up very differently than ours. Whatever. She died of a disease several years ago. And then a couple years after she died, they went broke. So now they live on the outskirts of where they used to live. Here's a map of where this book takes place. It's called Prythian. I think the whole thing is called Prythian. Prythian might also just be the Feylands, but we'll get there later. I jumped ahead of myself a little bit. She gets home. Nesta is immediately making a stink. She's like, ooh, you smell nasty. You should go take a bath. I've been in the woods for hours to feed your ungrateful ass, and you're worried about the way I smell? I should kill you. I should. One less mouth to feed, actually. That'd make my life so much easier. Anyway, she yells at her sister to do something, actually. Shout out to her, because she stands up against Nesta a couple of times. Yeah, she tells them that she's going to the market the next day to sell the wolf pelt or whatever. She goes take a bath. The night ends. The next day, they go to the market. Her sisters go with her because, now, theoretically, because they're broke and destitute, they should use that money for something useful, but Nesta wants to buy a new dress or new boots or something that, I mean, would be nice, but like not important. You have boots, girl. Whatever it is she has, but she just doesn't like the ones that she has, so she wants to get a new one because she still thinks that they're rich. Well, not that she thinks that they're rich, she just thinks that she deserves so much better than poverty that she's willing to let other people suffer if she looks nice. I hate her so much. Anyway, they get to the market. We find out about these, I don't want to call them cult members. They refer to them as children of the blessed. That's how these people refer to themselves. They are members of their community that worship the Fae. If it wasn't clear, this book is like a fantasy romance. There is Fae. They exist. but there's like a wall that divides humans from the Fae, and there are some people in the human lands that think that the Fae are like gods, so they worship them. Everybody thinks they're a little loco. It's not important. I'm only bringing it up because the Children of the Blessed make several, they don't make any like specific appearances, but they're referenced several times, so I'm bringing them up. Eventually Farah, because Farah is the only one who does anything useful for this family, she finds an assassin to buy the wolf pelt, and she buys it for an insane amount of money. And then the assassin tells her that for her to have found a wolf, she had to be extremely close to the wall that borders the Fae lands and the human lands. And she was like, you have to be careful because like more and more Fae are coming over that wall. Like, people seem to think that something's about to happen, so you got to be real careful going close to the wall. Farah asks her a couple other questions about it, and then they go on about their day. They go home. Nesta, I was going to say her sisters, but it's mostly Nesta. Nesta is arguing with her over what the money that they got for the pelt should be used, and to be fair, Farah killed the wolf, sold the pelt, skinned the wolf. She should decide what the money is for, because you had nothing to do with this sale from start to finish. Farah did all the work. They go back home after they spent the day in the market, and then boom, a big beast bursts into their home. Now they describe this beast several times in the course of the series. All I'm imagining is Adam. That's his name, right? The guy from Beauty and the Beast. This is just what I'm picturing. He actually does not look like that at all, I'm pretty sure. But that's the only thing in my brain, so that's what we're going with. Adam from Beauty and the Beast comes bursting through their front door, yelling and hooping and hollering. He's like, who killed my friend? Evidently, the wolf she killed was his bestie, I guess. And he's like, I've come to collect because apparently, so now I gotta give you a little bit of history lesson. So once upon a time, Fae actually ruled everywhere. Here we go with a poorly done racism allegory. Basically, the Fae were enslaving the human race, and then there was a civil war, and so humans earned their freedom, and there was like a peace treaty, but it's 500 years old. This big bad monster that came into their house is like, in the treaty, there's a clause that if any human kills a Fae that wasn't already attacking them, then another Fae can come and collect a bounty for their dead compadre, which, you know, Farah does not know. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. And he's like, of course not. You guys don't even pay attention to the treaty anymore. Hello? Let's say that is in the treaty, right? And she don't know that because she's 19 and poor. So, like, not very well educated. I really don't think that as our oppressors, you are in any capacity, you are in any way allowed to demand we don't kill you. Because y'all are supposed to be, there's a wall. There's a big magical wall, okay? You're on one side, we're on the other side. If you come to our side, why can't I kill you? I don't think that you are allowed here by order of that treaty. I don't really think, whatever. So he's like, here's the dealio, because you killed my friend, come with me, and you'll spend the rest of your days in Prithian, like, with me. And she's like, excuse me? I killed your friend and you just want me to come and live in the land of the Fae? That doesn't make any sense. And he's like, how dare you question my mercy, or something or the other. Anyway, because Elaine looks like she's about to spontaneously combust in fear, and Nesta, horrendous person that she is, don't really seem to give a fuck about Farah, who's about to get snatched up, and their pops is a crippled mess who can't really help nobody anyway. She's like, okay, fine, as long as you spare my family, like, I'll go with you. So she turns to her sisters and she gives them a list of instructions. She's like, listen, the deer I killed yesterday, you can cook this much in a stew and then jerky the rest, and it should last you for a couple of months. And this, she like gives them essentially, here's how to survive without me, because again, she's keeping this family afloat on her own at the ripe age of 19, despite being the youngest, and that makes me so angry. Whatever, she gives her family the list of rules and regulations for her departure, and then she goes with the big beast monster, who does not tell her his name as of now, I don't think. He puts her on a horse, and they travel through the woods. Eventually, he just like magically knocks her out, because she starts asking questions about where they're going, or how long it'll take to get there, whatever. So eventually, he just magically knocks her out. and she wakes up in Prithian, or the Feylands. Specifically, she ends up in the Spring Court. Once again, I'll show you that map now that we're there. Boom! This map gets more detailed through each book, so I'll show you the corresponding map that each book has as we go through these videos. The Feylands are divided into 7 courts, as you can see here. 1 for each season, and then day, night, and dawn. The Spring Court is closest to her house. The Spring Court is where she will be staying with, now we have a name, Tamlin. This is what I imagined Tamlin looked like. Each court has their own High Lord. Tamlin is the High Lord of Spring, which he ain't tell her that till they got to his house. So yeah, they get there, and then we meet Lucian. This is Lucian. I actually think that my image of him in my head, for once in my life, is pretty close to the version of him they describe. The only distinctive traits about him I remember are that he has red hair. It's like a big thing, okay? It comes up later. We'll have to circle it back, but he's got red hair and one eye. So this person, but like with a robotic eyeball. He is essentially Tamlin's second in command. He is not totally happy that Farah is there, but that's because she just killed their homie, remember? Yeah. Then we meet, I think her name was Alice. In my head, she kind of reminds me of Mrs. Potts, also in Beauty and the Beast. This book feels very much Beauty and the Beast-ish to me, at least for the first like half of it, and then it goes totally off the rails. It's actually a little bit funny. Not the point. And so later she was talking to Alice, and Alice was like, Lucian's kind of a smartass, but if you give it back to him the way he give it to you, then you'll earn his respect. That is Alice's advice to Farah about dealing with Lucian specifically. I don't think she gave her any advice on dealing with Tamlin, but she doesn't really plan on dealing with Tamlin. Again, this is very much Beauty and the Beast, okay? I don't know how time passes in this book, but for a time, she doesn't really talk to either of them that much. They all eat together, but she just sits there, eats her food, and then leaves. Something happens. There's an interaction between her and Lucian where she says something sassy back to him when he says something sassy to her. And he's like, okay, well, maybe I like you a little bit. Just a little bit. The two of them become friends. This is on her second or third day there. So she starts to spend a little bit more time with Lucian. She asks him to show her around. There's one day where Lucian is going to do something and takes her with him. I don't remember how soon that happened, but yeah, she goes somewhere with Lucian. They have a little bit of a chit chat during that interaction, and then they're attacked by some magical creature. But it's okay, nobody dies. So yeah, she's bonding with Lucian. She's still completely avoiding Tamlin to the best of her ability. And there was one day that she and Lucian were supposed to go riding or something, and Lucian had to go do something. So Tamlin was like, okay, well, I'll go with you. And she's like, no, I'll just go another day when Lucian's available. And then he goes, okay, well, like, do you want to be shown around the rest of the grounds? Because there's still a lot you haven't seen. And she's like, no, I don't want to do anything with you. Leave me alone. And he goes, fine, and storms off. And you know that scene in Beauty and the Beast where the Beast offers, I think it's the night that she first arrives, and he asks her to come eat with him, and she's like, no, I don't want to eat with you, and he's like, then starve, and storms away. It's like that, but like dialed down. He doesn't yell at her, but it's the same energy. He's upset that she don't want to spend time with him. It's so funny to me. Because again, I'm just imagining him as Adam from Beauty and the Beast, except he don't look like a beast all the time. He's a shapeshifter. Each of the High Lords has a special power. His is shapeshifting. I'm telling you that now. The rest of them don't matter because you don't meet any of the other High Lords for quite some time. But it takes quite some time for her to like open up to Tamlin and like bond with him. It's so funny, actually. To me personally, it's kind of funny. There's quite a few instances of Tamlin tries to like extend an olive branch and gets shut down, which is really funny because at some point Lucian switched gears from being like, I don't want her here, blah 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 blah, I can't believe you brought her, she's a murderer, and he switches gears to trying to help Tamlin like make a connection with her in some capacity. It's very funny. He's like both Lumiere and Cogsworth like combined into one character. I like Lucian a lot. He's so cool. So there's one thing I want to discuss that is kind of relevant, but only a little bit. So there's this night, it's called calamari, I think. I kept wanting to call it calamari. That's not correct. But it's Fire Night in English. So there's a thing called Fire Night. Except Tamlin won't tell her what that is. He's just like, there's going to be a festival. It's called Fire Night. Listen, here's the rules. Go to your room when the sun goes down, lock the door, and do not leave until morning. Okay? I've only been here a few weeks. I don't want to know about your weird ceremonies, especially because at this point, she still does not like the Fae. Like, she viscerally hates them, but she's stuck here for the rest of her life, which I guess kind of sucks. Whatever. Tamlin is like, lock your door, stay in your room until sunrise. Okay? This is my problem. The main characters in like fantasy adventure novels, they don't have enough self-preservation for me. I don't think I could be one of these characters because I personally, those instructions, I think I would follow. I don't know y'all, don't like y'all. I don't care about your weird little rituals. If you tell me I was probably gonna stay in my room all night anyway. Actually, let's be for real. The sun goes down. There's music. They say it changes when the sun goes down. Anyway, they playing drums. The music going crazy, alright? She's intrigued. The drums are so loud she can feel them in her bones. She's like, I gotta go see what's up. Because nobody will actually tell her what Fire Night is. And I mean, I get it, because, like, I'm kind of nosy sometimes, but, like, I also don't like y'all. So if you don't tell me, I'm not going to go out of my way to go and find out for myself. Not like this, anyway. Maybe I'll crack open a book. Oh, I should mention she can't read. That's a mystery master tool for later, so hold on to that information. She can't read. She doesn't know what Fire Night is, because anything that is Fae related is pretty, like, they don't talk about any of that on, like, in the human lands, to the point where humans don't even have holidays for real. Like, even Christmas and stuff, they don't celebrate none of that. I mean, there's no such thing as Christmas in this world, but they have a similar holiday that's celebrated around the same time, actually. But humans don't celebrate it because all of their traditions and stuff. Ooh! Every time I had to discuss it, it took me out of the fantasy to realize that this was basically just a racism allegory. Yeah, they don't have any of their own traditions and holidays because they were enslaved for centuries and they didn't want to adopt the holidays of their oppressors, so they didn't create any new ones, I guess. Oof, what a time to be alive. Anyway, she feels the beat in her bones, okay? The drums are calling her name. So not only does she unlock her door and leave her room, she leaves the whole house, goes outside, and finds herself in the middle of a Fae party. There's creatures everywhere, you know, having a good old jolly time, you know. It's Fire Night. Everybody getting lit. And then she's cornered by 3 creatures. Can't remember what they're called. There are so many creatures in this series. It really doesn't matter. She's cornered by 3 monsters. They're not Fae, but they're like other creatures that are like in their world. And they're like, ooh, we gonna have some fun with her. Because I'll explain what Fire Night is in a minute, because she doesn't find out what Fire Night is for quite some time, but I'm going to explain it in advance because I like y'all. So they're ready to take her for the evening, I guess, and then mysterious stranger shows up. I'm telling you his name now, even though I don't think she finds it out, like, until a couple incidences later. His name is Reasoned. Reasoned, like, materializes behind her. You know how that always happens. You know, the girl is in danger, and then mysterious stranger shows up and saves the day. Because she's, like, backing away from these creatures, and then she slams into a wall, and then she realizes the wall has arms. Anyway, and he's like, there you are. I've been looking for you, girly. And he tells the creatures that she's his. And they, like, practically run away when they see him. Like, he's spooky, evidently. And he's like, you probably shouldn't be out here alone, should you? She gives him some excuse for why she is where she has no business being. And then she runs away. No, he takes her to Lucian. And the Lucian takes her back to the house and yells at her for breaking the rule of coming out at night. And she's like, I heard the drums. I couldn't help myself. He's like, go to your room. Shut the door. do not leave again before morning. Do you think she's gonna listen this time? No. Although this time she doesn't totally leave the house. She leaves her room because she gets hungry because, I don't know, she skipped dinner because she was mad at everybody for not telling her what fire night is. So she was hungry. So she's like, I'm gonna just go to the kitchen and get me something to eat. It's like 3 a.m. when she does that, and Tamlin, half beast mode, she describes him as like kind of in beast mode. Like, okay, I'm watching Teen Wolf for the first time right now, and they don't fully turn into wolves. I don't know if they can. If they can, they never do, except for Derek's mom. Is that like a special skill, fully turning into a wolf? Because literally every other show I know where there are werewolves, they turn into straight up wolves. In this show, everybody just like half shapeshifts. That feels so lazy. Anyway, in my head, I hadn't watched Teen Wolf when I read this, but in my head I was basically picturing how the werewolves in Teen Wolf go. Like, just like Harry with the claws. Except his claws don't look like their claws. Their claws are hideous. I'm getting distracted. He got like real big monster claw type things in my brain. She's like, oh, he's like half animal or something. That's how she describes him. When he comes stomping down the damn hallway at like 3 a.m. when she tried to go down to the kitchen and get some bread. And he makes a comment about her like not being in her room. He like grabs her hand and there's something that goes on between them, and then he bites her. The love bug comes right back and bites me. Can't help it, girl, can't help it. Anyway, yeah, he bites her. Not hard enough to break skin, but hard enough to bruise, evidently. I just remembered something that happened, but I can't remember when it happened. But there's a day that she's talking to Lucian. She's talking to him about, like, different creatures, and there's one called a Suriel? I might not be saying that right. A Suriel, I think is how you say it, if I'm remembering all the letters correctly. Apparently, if you can trap one, it will answer your questions. I don't remember how they got to this topic, but basically Lucian was telling her about it. He was like, theoretically, if you caught one, you could answer it. And then they would answer your questions if you could catch them, if you were smart enough to catch them. And she's like, well, how do I catch one, theoretically, if I wanted to? Not that I would. They're having, like, this conversation that isn't a conversation. And he's like, well, I know that you're not stupid enough to try and catch one, but if you wanted to, I would tell you that there are raw chickens in the kitchen, and you would be able to set up a trap for the Suriel using the raw chicken, but you should do it near a body of water, and when you let the thing go, you better run like hell. And if you were dumb enough to try and capture a Suriel to get answers out of it, and you were to scream, perhaps I would maybe be close enough that if I heard you scream, I wouldn't let you die. Basically, that's how that conversation goes. And so she goes and captures the Suriel because she has a lot of questions she wants answers to. The main one being, I forgot to mention this. In the spring court, everybody's wearing masks. They're like permanently stuck on their face. And at some point she asked Tamlin about it, and he was like, oh, there's a disease that's affecting my people, which is that's not even technically true, but that's what he tells her, basically. And he's like, it's my job to fix it because I'm the High Lord and blah, 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 and I'm working on it, something or the other. Basically, and she wants to help, but he's like, there's, 1, there ain't nothing you can do, and 2, that's really not your burden to carry. Which, I mean, I guess, dude, but you are now my host. If y'all are all gonna die, I'm stuck here unprotected. So it is kind of I don't know, I'm kind of concerned. If y'all are gonna die, I should know. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, so she captures the Suriel and starts asking it a bunch of questions. I think she asks about if there's something she can do to help with their affliction. There's a couple other things that happen. And one of the Suriel's answers to one of her questions is stay with the High Lord and everything will be fine. I don't remember the rest of that conversation she had with the Suriel, but I'm telling you that answer specifically because it comes back 2 books later. And listen, this book is about 400 pages. This is the smallest book that has plot. No offense to the 4th book. It's just like it's like a holiday episode. But anyway, so yeah, that don't come up for another like 600 pages, but I'm telling you, because she recalls that conversation later on, like way later on. So I'm telling you now, the Suriel said, stay with the High Lord and everything will be okay. That was his advice. And she was like, I was really hoping I would get to go home, but okay. Fine. So she has the Suriel trapped, but then she gets attacked by these creatures called the Naga, and the Suriel is like, please let me go, they'll kill me. So she cuts the Suriel free, and the Suriel runs away, and then she tries to take on the Naga. There's 4 of them that attack her. She manages to take down at least 2 of them on her own, maybe 3, and then Tamlin has to come in. Like, Tamlin shows up at the last minute to save her from the last one. At some point during this while she was fighting these Naga that she had no business fighting, she does scream. Remember how we said earlier that Lucian said if she screamed, he might be close enough to help? Yeah, he ain't show up. Just FYI. I'm only bringing it up because the next time they speak, I think, he apologizes. He's like, I hesitated and I almost got you killed because of it, and I'm really sorry. First of all, I shouldn't have told you to go after the Suriel in the first goddamn place, but I told you to go after it, and I told you that I would help you, and I didn't. And he gives her a dagger as an apology. He's like, here you go. Please don't stick it in my back. I love Lucian so much. I think this happens before Kallen Mai, the Fire Night. I think. Maybe. But let me tell you what Fire Night is. It's essentially a spring festival that they do. They celebrate Kallen Mai, if I understand correctly, in every court, but in the spring court specifically, because it's a spring related festival, it is a big deal. And Tamlin, the High Lord, Tamlin specifically is supposed to choose a person to spend the night with in a cave, doing what real people do. I'm trying to figure out a way to say this. Yeah, so he's supposed to pick somebody to spend the night in a cave with and hit the Marvin Gaye "Get It On" as some sort of, apparently that action creates a lot of energy that is given to the earth and replenishes the magic in the spring court or some shit like that. I don't know. It's a big deal, basically. So they had her locked away for Kallen Mai because Tamlin at this point already is starting to have feelings for her. Obviously, he can't pick her for Kallen Mai. So he's like, you have to go away. You have to be locked away where I can't reach you. Fast forwarding back to where I was before, after Kallen Mai, she wakes up in the morning with a big bruise on her neck because he bit her the night before, and she's like, I want his to feel bad about biting me, so she wears something that like shows the bruise basically, as opposed to covering it up. And when she goes down for breakfast, Lucian's like, what the hell happened to you? And she's like, ask your friend. And Tamlin's like, she wasn't in her room like she was supposed to be. He's like, no remorse. And at this point, I liked Tamlin, so I thought that was kind of funny. So there's an incident that takes place. I don't remember who finds it. I think actually Farah does. She's like walking through the gardens, starting to adjust to her life there. And she stumbles across a head of something in a fountain. And Tamlin is livid because he knows who put the head there. Reason. And Reason shouldn't be able to just freely la-di-da-di-da into his territory like that, apparently. And so he's angry, like very angry. And at this point, she doesn't realize that Reason is the guy from Fire Night, so she's like, whoever he is, him and his mama. Yeah, there's a whole thing. And then one day, Tamlin, Lucian, and Farah are having lunch. She and Tamlin are starting to form a friendship. Maybe something a little bit more, they're having conversations, they're spending time together. So lunch, we're chilling, everybody's having a good old jolly time. And then suddenly in the middle of a conversation, Tamlin is like, Farah, go hide behind the curtain, don't make a sound. What's going on? Go! Okay, damn. So she goes and hides behind a curtain. Lucian stands in front of her, in front of the curtain, and then in walks Reason. Like a bad he walks in like, hey. Tamlin makes some comment about the head. They have like a weird rivalry going on. As of right now, Farah does not understand it. She's like, what is going on between the two of them? But she quickly realizes that this is the guy from Fire Night. And then Reason is like walking, and I think at some point he's just strolling the room, being a cocky bastard. He looks at the table. There's a third place setting. And he's like, ooh, y'all have a lunch guest? Nobody told me. And then he's like, wait a damn minute. And then he gets mad. He's like, how dare you try to conceal somebody from me? He kirking off. And then boom, out pops Farah from behind the curtain, basically. Because they can't glamour her anymore. Reason realizes it's the girl from Fire Night. And I think he makes a comment about the fact that he's met her before. I can't recall. But he asks her name, and she gives him the name Claire something. It's the name of one of Nesta's friends back home. I don't know why she did that. I don't know why she lied. But if she was gonna lie, why did you pick a real person? I know you can't read, so you don't have any fictional characters to pull out of your ass, but like, girl, some creativity would have been nice. He gives her the name Claire something or the other because Reason has OP powers, but they don't get explained in this book, so I can't totally explain them to you now. I want to make sure I'm giving you information as she figured it out, because that's how this book reads since it's in first person. He does this thing that she describes as reaching claws into Lucian's mind. I don't remember what she was searching for. I think he was searching for her name, but if not that, whatever it was, Lucian was shell-shocked. And she was like, I'll give you my name, just leave him alone, because, you know, that's her buddy, that's her, you ain't messing with my clique. So she gives him the name Claire something or the other. And then Reason is like, he mentions a woman. He's like, I wonder what Amarantha would think if I told her this. Tamlin is like, please, you can't tell her this girl is here. Like, you literally cannot. And he's like, now why would I do that? Why wouldn't I tell her? Tamlin's like, please, what do you want? Like, anything. You can't tell her. I can't have anything happen to this girl. And he's like, beg. Reason is my type of chaos. He goes, beg for it. Maybe if I like your begging, I'll keep her a secret for you. So Tamlin drops to his knees, full on like Muslim prayer bow, face to the ground. Then he goes, please, you can't tell her this girl is here. Please, you can't. Please don't. I think he leaves without actually saying that he won't tell her. He'll be like, okay, well, y'all have a good day. Nice to see you again, Claire. That was so nice of him to believe her. But I guess he thought she had no reason to lie to him, which is crazy because you just came in here threatening everybody. Why wouldn't she lie? Not the point. There's some more bonding between Tamlin and Farah. We find out that after Tamlin snatched her away from her family, he set them up with money. He also wiped their memories of him stealing her into the night. They think that she's staying with some distant relative who is ill, who's also rich, and therefore sent them money because the auntie took the youngest daughter away indefinitely to take care of her. She was like feeling guilty that she was, you know, living lavish, having all the food she wanted and stuff, and her family was destitute. And he was like, no, they're not. Like, I'm very well aware that you were the one taking care of them. Do you think I would really leave them without a way of taking care of themselves without you? To be fair, you did appear in my house as a monster and broke our door. Also, you threatened to kill me. You didn't, but when I didn't immediately want to come with you to spend the rest of my days in Prithian, you threatened to murder me. No offense, bro, but that doesn't really say much about your character. So yeah, they're bonding, they're getting along. He talks to her about magic, teaches her some things. There's one scene where they're walking through the gardens, I think, and a creature of some sort, I don't remember which one, there's so many magical creatures. A creature shows up, and so he tells her to hide behind a statue or a bush or something and not to make a sound. And he uses his magic to like conceal her presence from this creature that he's talking to. And they go back and forth for a while. I don't remember their conversation, except this creature says, for somebody with a heart of stone, you sure do seem to have a lot of emotions or something. I'm telling you this, another mystery mouse tool that you'll need to use later. So just hold on to that piece of information. It comes back in the stupidest way. That creature is not the only one that says something like that to him, but that's the only time I can vividly remember that interaction taking place. So hold on to that piece of that nugget. I think after this interaction Tamlin has with this creature, he tells Farah, it's either after that or after something else that happens. He tells Farah that he's sending her home. And she's like, what you talking about? What you talking about, Willis? And he's like, I can't protect you. Something happens. I think there's like an attack or something near his house. And he's like, I can't protect you here anymore. Like, I can't keep you safe and I don't want you to get hurt. So I'm going to send you home. And she's like, I was supposed to be here for the rest of my life. What you mean you're going to send me home? And he's like, I know. I can't keep you. Before this interaction takes place, they do the horizontal tango. And so she's, like most teenage girls would do, assumes that he's sending her home because it's like because he, you know, got what he wanted. And because he sent her home so soon after they crossed that line, she, even though at this point, I guess she's in love with him. I don't know how we got there, but she's in love with him. She does not say so. She doesn't want to say so or admit that because he's sending her home and she's upset about it, which is fair. She doesn't want to leave, but he's not really giving her a choice in the matter. He's like, you're going home. I can't keep you safe here, so you have to go home. He puts her in a carriage that's supposed to take her home. He don't even take her home himself. He puts her in a carriage and he's like, I love you. And she won't say it back. He sighs, sends her away. She goes home, back to her sisters and her dad, who are now living in like an estate. Like, Tamlin gave them enough money that they got their status back, okay? And Nesta, apparently, the little memory glamour that Tamlin put on everybody ain't work on her. So she knows that Farrah has been gone to Prythian for the last several months. She has a conversation with Nesta where she tells her everything that happened. She's like, this is what went down. All the details from start to finish. And then she's only been home for like a day or two. But then she hears about one of their like neighbors or something. Their house burned down and everybody died in the fire. And you'll never guess whose family it was. Claire, whatever the hell her last name is. And Farrah's like, shit. She's like, this probably has something to do with me. So she tells Nesta, she's like, I think I have to go back. Something is terribly wrong. I think Tamlin's in danger and I have to go back. And Nesta is like, okay, go if you have to go. I will hold down the fort here. This felt very out of character compared to the rest of the things she does in the series, but I digress. So boom, Farrah trudges her way back to the spring court. When she gets there, the home, the mansion they live in, trashed. It looks a mess. So she got to try and track somebody down. She manages to find Alice, her little teapot. I'm sorry, that's such a terrible way to describe her, but she just kind of reminds me of Mrs. Potts. So she tracks down Alice, and Alice is angry with her. She's like, you stupid girl, all you had to do was say that you loved him! And she's like, what the hell are you talking about, bro? Apparently, okay, now here's where we get a really big piece of information. So, Amarantha, the lady who was mentioned like twice earlier in the book, she's from a place called Hybern. Hybern is separate from the rest of Prythian. It's like an island situation set up like off the coast of Prythian. Amarantha she works for the king of Hybern, who they just call the king of Hybern. I don't even know if he has a name, but he won't come up again for a while, so just bookmark it. Amarantha works for him. She showed up in Prythian 50-ish years ago. She was trying to establish trade agreements with them. I'm putting that in quotes because that was not actually what she was doing. And she ended up essentially capturing all of them, making herself the queen of Prythian, and she stole all of their power, so they can't even like fight her back. Tamlin, however, she won't him. So she made a deal with him. She invited Tamlin and the entire spring court to a party at this area. It's referred to as Under the Mountain. Before Amarantha got there, it was like a really sacred place that was kind of unruled by any of the high lords, but it was something that all of Prythian considered sacred. She showed up there, made it her little palace, I guess. So like now it's kind of desecrated. Nobody really goes there. But she invited Tamlin and all of his court members to a party she was throwing under the mountain about 50 years ago. And she was like, I want you. Come be with me. And he was like, I would rather marry a human, actually, than date you. Which is crazy, because Amarantha is very much psycho for reasons that we find out later, but because it all happens in, like, weird sequence, I'm going to tell you now. Amarantha, during that civil war I mentioned from 500 years ago, so Amarantha's sister fell in love with a human whose name is Jurian. He will come up again later, so I'm telling you all it is. Amarantha's sister fell in love with Jurian, but Jurian was a general for the human side of the Civil War and was only using her for information, and he eventually ended up killing her. Amarantha went completely loco psycho and murdered him, like so bad the only thing that's left of him is an eyeball and a finger bone, which she keeps in a bracelet that she's always wearing. So she hates humans bad. So when Tamlin said, I would rather date a human than be with you, she took it personally, which honestly, to be fair, I would take that shit pretty personally too. Ouch. Especially because most Fae view the human as less than. So, I don't know how Tamlin feels about it personally. I don't trust his ethics on really anything, to be honest, but that's not the point. I don't know if he thinks humans are less than, but Amarantha certainly does. So it'd be like, I would rather date a dog than dating you. And that would hurt my feelings. I don't know about y'all, but I'd be hurt. So Amarantha put a curse on Tamlin and all of his people. That's what the masks are for. That's part of the curse. Ooh, still giving Beauty and the Beast, actually. He was like, okay, well, if you can find a human to fall in love with you without being able to use the fact that Fae are unnaturally beautiful, and she got to be a human that hates Fae, like genuinely hates the Fae. Poof! If you can find a human girl to fall in love with you, then I will let everyone go, I think, is the one end of the deal. If you can't make that happen in 49 years, not only will I capture all of your people, but you are going to be by my side as my consort. So that was the deal, which is why before he sent her home like a dummy, he tried to tell her that he loved her, Farah. But she didn't say it back, so the curse couldn't be broken. And so Alice tells her all of this now that the 50 years is up. And she mad at her for not saying anything. But she's like, okay, but I didn't know. I was mad at him for sending me home. You not mad at him for sending me home, but you mad at me because I didn't say I love you to the man who is sending me home, discarding me. Farah is like, okay, well, where is Tamlin now? Like, how can I save anyone? Oh, I should mention, Alice, I don't know how she managed to escape this, but she escaped. She has family in the Summer Court. So her plan is to escape and go to the Summer Court. Because even though the High Lord of Summer, I'm pretty sure, and his court are under the mountain with Amarantha, it seems like all of the High Lords and their courts are under the mountain. But for the most part, their people are sort of doing their best, except Tamlin don't really have a people, or like he does, but whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Farah's like, okay, well, where are they? How can I fix it now? And she's like, well, they're under the mountain, obviously. She's like, how do I get there? Farah is like, how do I get there? And Alice is like, you do not want to go there. And Farah is like, it's my fault that they're down there because I was too stubborn to say I love you, so now I'm gonna go and fix it because they don't deserve to be under there because I'm stubborn. Which, you ain't trapped nobody down there. You ain't trapped nobody down there, first of all. Secondly, Tamlin's stupid ass sent you home. Did he really think he was gonna get an I love you as he was sending you home? I wouldn't say I love you to him either. Anyway, Alice takes her to the entrance that goes under the mountain. There are paths from under the mountain to each of the courts, since under the mountain is was considered like a sacred place for all of them. So she's like, this is as far as I'm taking you. Listen, when you get down there, you can't trust any of your senses. You're gonna see things that aren't what they are. You're gonna hear things that aren't what they are. Like, don't trust the things that you see, hear, or feel down there. Also, don't drink any wine that's offered to you. Don't make a deal unless you absolutely have to. And even if you have to make the deal, consider not doing it. That's what she tells her. And then they go their separate ways. Farah goes under the mountain. She's in this like slew of tunnels, and she gets caught by like one of the Naga. The Naga are basically Amarantha's little henchmen. They can fly. I imagine them like big blue bats, kind of like Panic from Hercules. Whichever one of them flies, the one that's like a bat. I imagine the Naga like that, but bigger and blue. I don't know why I imagine them blue. I don't think they are. They're not described that way to my knowledge, but that's just what I picture in my brain. It grabs her by the leg, takes her into Amarantha's throne room. Miss Claire is like flayed against the wall, like hung up, and she dead. But like, you know, you could look at her body and know they tortured the absolute hell out of the girl, which is so crazy to me because like Reason, I guess, snitched to Amarantha. But when they brought Claire, he didn't snitch that was obviously not the girl that Tamlin. First of all, he literally just let that random ass innocent girl die. But anyway, so she gets there. Amarantha's like, ooh, what's this? Also, this is how I imagine Amarantha. I didn't find out for entirely too long that is not what Amarantha looks like. This was my vision of her, but by the time I realized that this is not how she looks, she was already dead. So I'm not changing it. This is how she looks to me. I will tell you all, though, that she has red hair. Apparently. I don't get it. The only reason I know she has red hair is because in the second book, at some point, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but Farah sees Lucian and almost has a panic attack because she, for a second, thought it was Amarantha. And I was like, she had red hair? like, she has red hair? I don't know if I just skipped the description of her entirely, I guess. Whatever. So, Amarantha's like, ooh, what's this? And Farrah is like, I've come here to rescue Tamerlane. And she's like, girl, okay. Tamerlane is sitting next to Amarantha, by the way, stone facing it. Like, not like he don't even know Farrah, for real. But she's like, I'm here to save him. They go back and forth a little while, and she immediately breaks the first rule that Alice gave her. Don't make a deal unless it's life or death, and even then, maybe still don't make the deal. She makes a deal with Amarantha. The deal is, this is what Amarantha says. She's like, I will give you 3 challenges, 1 on every full moon. So she's going to be there for the next 3 months. If you succeed in those challenges, I will set everyone free, including Tamerlane, assuming you live, because these challenges are supposedly deadly, which I guess makes sense. And Farrah is like, deal. So that's the deal they make. Some of the Naga beat Farrah's ass and then drag her into a cell. I feel like that was unnecessary. They just wanted to show that they could do that. Because what y'all beat her up for? What'd she do to y'all? So some time passes. She's in a dark, damp cell. Lucian comes to visit her in her cell, and he's like, what the hell, girl? And she's like, listen, bro. He heals her a little bit from like her, they broke her nose and her arm or something. And he's like, listen, I can set the broken nose and like ease your pain a little bit, but if I totally fix you, they'll know someone was in here, and that is not going to be good for any of us. So I'm gonna only heal you a little bit. He heals her. He's like, girl, good luck. You kind of crazy. Some time passes, and then boom, it's the first challenge. Listen. So the first challenge, she is thrown into a maze, and Amarantha is like, so reason tells me that you used to be a little bit of a hunter. Well, guess what? This time you gonna be hunted by a giant creature that, you know the episode of SpongeBob? You know the episode of SpongeBob where they see a giant worm and they're worried that the giant worm is going to completely destroy the Bikini Bottom? I picture that. I picture one of those. They don't describe the creature. Well, I mean, Farrah doesn't really have time to describe it. She's running from it. But it's a giant blind creature. So I just pictured the giant worm from SpongeBob. Basically, it's chasing her around this maze. She realizes at some point that the creature is blind. So she starts to cover herself in like the stuff that the walls of the maze are made of, because then it'll be less likely to pick up on her scent. And she falls into a hole, which she realizes is the creature's sort of den, which I don't understand why it's a hole in the ground. But she falls into a hole. There's a big ass pile of bones. So she starts cracking them bones against her leg. She's breaking as many as she can manage to break, and she's sticking them in the ground, pointy sides up. Okay, she's essentially making a death trap for this giant worm. And then she climbs out of the hole she's just made. And then she has to go and track the worm down. So she cuts her arm because it uses scent to guide it. So theoretically, it'll smell her blood and come looking for her. And she's running, she's ducking and dodging. At some point, Lucian, she can't find the worm. And so Lucian, who's watching from a raised platform with Amarantha and Tamerlane, Lucian yells, "On your left, Farrah!" or something like that. And she just barely misses getting eaten by the thing. She has the worm chase her into her death trap, and then it goes, and it impales itself on the many broken bones that she left there. Oh, I should mention that this was like, in my head, this took place in like a coliseum. There was a whole stadium full of audience members watching this, like bleachers on bleachers. And all of them were initially rooting for her death until they realized, oh, she might actually beat this thing. And then by the end, they were like, oh! And people made wagers. Apparently, Reason is the only one that bet she would win, which is so crazy that he did that in the first place. Fighting this giant worm was not easy, okay? She got like a broken arm and a couple other like misshapen things happening. I don't remember all the details, but basically she a little broke up by the time she goes back to her cell after this challenge, but she's won the first challenge. Hooray! And she's like, Lucian will show up and he will fix my arm before I die. Lucian does not show up. After a couple of days of, you know, slowly withering away in her cell from her broken bone, Reason pops up in her cell. She's like, what the hell are you doing here? Because as far as she knows, Reason is essentially Amarantha's right hand. Like, he's always by her side. You know, he's like her little enforcer. People like to call him Amarantha's little whore because I guess they be banging. We'll get into that later. Just bookmark that piece of information. So she doesn't understand why he would come see her anyway. And he's like, listen, girl, you are probably dying from that broken limb. I guess it's infected or something. He's like, I can fix you. And she's like, for what though? What's the deal? Like, what do you want in return for that? That doesn't help you. He's like, I don't know. You won the first challenge. I'm kind of surprised. I want to see if you can actually make it through this thing alive. Here's the deal. I will heal your arm, but in exchange, you have to come and see me 2 weeks a month for the rest of however long you live, should you get out of this situation. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, you spend 2 weeks in the night court with me every month for the rest of your life. And she's like, what? Why? And he's like, it'll piss Tamlin off. That's what he says. He says, it'll piss Tamlin off. And she's like, I will not do 2 weeks. I can do 5 days. And he's like, 10 days. They whittle it down, basically. She's like, I'll do a week. And he's like, deal. Which, personally, I don't understand why. You are dying. You have a broken arm, an infection probably. You're not really in the position to be making bargains because you don't have anything to offer. If I was Reason, I would just be like, no. 2 weeks or nothing, babe. But nah, he worked with her. They got down to a week. He healed her body. And when you make deals in the Fae lands, in Prithian, when you make deals with Fae, like magical creatures, it shows up on your body physically. Like there's a tattoo that represents the deal you've made. So a whole bunch of whirly swirlies show up on her arm, from like her elbow all the way down to her wrist, and on her palm there's a giant eyeball. She hates that eyeball. She feels like it's looking at her half the time. So boom, that's the deal. After that, Reason decides that he's gonna take her out of her cell pretty much every night. He has her come to like his chambers. He's got some assistants of his that like paint all over her body and dress her up in night court attire, which for some reason is a lot of like flowy fabrics. In my brain, I'm imagining the kind of stuff that would be in Aladdin. It's a lot of like loose fitting, flowy fabric. Although the stuff he has her in is particularly revealing, which is so interesting to me because I feel like the night court would probably wear warmer clothes, right? Like night would be cold. Anyway, not the point. Because I guess Amarantha has little parties every night. So Reason has her come to these parties as his guest. And he's like, drink the wine. And she's like, I don't want to. And he's like, trust me, you're going to want to drink this wine. Which is so suspicious to me. I would not like it. But whatever, she drinks the wine and she essentially spends the night dancing. But she doesn't remember that until Reason comes and tells her like the next day. Because the wine makes her totally black out. And so that's what happens for the next several weeks between the first challenge and the second challenge. Reason takes her out of her cell, dresses her up like a night court, and has her get super drunk and dance for him. And then it comes challenge 2! Very different challenge. Remember I've given you like 6 different Mystery Mouseketools at this point, but the first Mystery Mouseketool about her not being able to read, that's about to come up. So, challenge 2. She's in a room. There's a metal gate separating her from Lucian, who is tied to a chair. There are spikes coming down from the ceiling. On her and Lucian, by the way. And she has to solve a riddle that's written on the wall. There's 3 levels. She has to pull a specific lever based off of the riddle. Except she can't read the goddamn riddle. Because of course she can't. So, she's going to pick a lever at random. She puts her hand over the 3rd lever. Her arm starts to burn. Puts her hand by the 2nd lever. No burning. To test her theory, she puts her hand by the 1st lever, burning again. So she pulls the 2nd lever just at the last minute, by the way. Like, she barely survives that, she and Lucian. The hand she's using is the one that has Reason's tattoo on it. So while I don't remember when this is totally confirmed, but at this point you can reasonably assume that the only reason she won that is because Reason used the tattoo to tell her the answer, because I guess he realized at some point that like while this was happening that she couldn't actually read it and was just gonna guess. So he was like, wait a second. He tapped in and saved everybody's life. I should mention that the only reason Lucian did not come and heal her after the first challenge is because his little yelling during the first challenge got him beat so bad he could not move. And Tamlin had to beat him, which is crazy. Amarantha made Tamlin whip his ass. They talk about that. Like, Lucian apologizes to her at some point and is like, listen, I couldn't come see you because I was healing. Like, I was bruck up, girl, bruck up. Tamlin heavy-handed as shit. During one of these little parties that Amarantha throws, Tamlin finally cracks his little facade and makes a like effort to reach out to Farah. Lucian passes the message along. They meet up like in a closet, and Tamlin's like, he's on her like white on rice immediately. Okay, he's like, I can't stand to see Reason touching you all the time, blah blah blah, whatever he has to say. Reason, I guess, saw them go in the closet, or maybe he just like had a feeling, found them, switches places with Tamlin. Basically, he grabs Farah, kisses her, and then that's when Amarantha shows up. Amarantha is like, oh, look at that, Tamlin. I told you, human emotion is so fickle. Look at her, whoring herself out for the High Lord of the Night Court. She don't want you no more. We still have another challenge, girly pop. Anyway, he didn't kiss her because he wanted to. He kissed her because the paint that he has on her body every night, it was smudged because Tamlin had his hands all up on her. And Reason was like, if she saw that, she would obviously know that Tamlin was all up on you, and she probably would have killed all of us immediately. Like, I'm trying to save everybody's life here. So, final challenge, which compared to the other two seems so easy to me, but maybe I'm a little bit morally gray. So the last challenge, Amarantha tells her, you gonna kill some people. Now that I'm saying it like that, it sounds crazy. So there's 3 people kneeling with bags over their head, their hands tanned behind their back. And Amarantha provides Farah with a weapon. She's like, all you gotta do is kill these 3 people. That's the last challenge. So bag is removed from the first person, and Farah has to totally psych herself into being able to kill this person. She's like, I can't just take an innocent life. But then she rationalizes it. 3 lives for literally the rest of the lives of everybody who's here. I think that's a pretty, balance is tipped. So she stabs the first one. It shakes her to her core, but she doesn't. Second one, boom, shakes her to her core, but she doesn't. They remove the bag from the third person, and there is Tamlin kneeling before her. And she's like, I don't understand. For a number of reasons. One, she's doing all of this for Tamlin. If she has to kill him now to save everybody else, she'd be like, is it really worth it? Like, damn, like, not that she don't care about everybody else's life, but is life really going to be living if she loses the love of her life as a result of trying to save everybody else? 1. 2, Amarantha still likes this man. Like, she still wants him for herself. So why would she risk his life? Like, she's calling a serious bluff. She can't say for sure that like Farah wouldn't stab him if it meant saving everybody else, including herself at this point. She has no idea of guaranteeing that Tamlin would live, so like why would she take this risk? And then, remember Mystery Mouse Cthulhu number maybe 3? It's either 2 or 3 that I thought was stupid. The Heart of Stone comment that I mentioned earlier, Farah is like, that has to be literal. Maybe his heart is physically made of stone. Like, this won't kill him. She's like, I have to believe that when people are telling him he's got a heart of stone, they mean that for real. Like, his heart is actually stone. Boom! Plunges the dagger into his heart. And he screams, but eventually the dagger clinks against something hard, which they do not explain that at all. First of all, there is nothing in this world that would have me make that connection. Over the course of like 6 months, you expect me to remember 3 times that somebody said you had a heart of stone? 1. 2, why would you assume it's literal? And 3, why is his heart made of stone? We don't ever get an answer as to why his heart is made of stone. Whatever, she stabs him, he screams, but he doesn't die. So boom, she's won the last challenge. And Amarantha, tricky as she is like, well, I didn't say I'd free them right now. Maybe I'll just wait until you die. How about that? I don't remember what tips her off to do this, but she straight up attacks her. She snaps Farah's neck like that, and then Farah's consciousness is astro projected elsewhere, which she doesn't immediately realize where she goes, but she essentially goes into Reason's mind. And Reason tries to attack Amarantha for not necessarily for killing Farah, but because Farah completed the challenges, and Amarantha's like, I never said when I would let y'all go. Reason is unsuccessful in attacking her, but Tamlin goes ape. I don't know what it is that suddenly gave him the strength and power to do so, but he ripped that to shreds with the quickness. And then he cradles Miss Dead Farah in his arms, and he asks the other High Lords, because remember, all of them are down there, and with Amarantha dead, they now all have their power back. He begs all of them to help him save her. And I don't remember who starts it, but each of them essentially gives her a little kernel of their power. I imagine little glowing light balls. Like, you know how in Pixie Hollow or in Peter Pan, fairies look like little balls of light from far away? That's what I imagine. Just a little tiny ball of light. Ploop, ploop, bloop, 7 of them, 1 from each High Lord. Tamlin, Reason. Hellion is another High Lord. I think he's from the Day Court. He makes several appearances, but I can't remember if he's from Day or Dawn. Tarkin is from the Summer Court. He also makes several appearances. And the one from the Winter Court is, I think, Callan is his name. It starts with a K. He makes a couple of appearances. And then there's Baron, who's from the Autumn Court. He makes several appearances for several different reasons. Also, I should mention, Lucien is from the Autumn Court, so Baron is his father. But Lucien and Baron don't get along at all. That's why Lucien lives at the Spring Court with Tamlin. Lucien fell in love with a human girl. His family found out and killed his girlfriend in front of him, and then tried to kill him. So he ran away. He ended up in the Spring Court. Oh my gosh, I just realized there's one High Lord that is literally mentioned maybe once in the entire series. I think he's from Dawn. I'm pretty sure Hellion is from the Day Court. And then the one from the Dawn Court is the High Lord that nobody knows the name of. Or at least I don't know the name of. They probably name him at least twice. But since he never makes any, significant appearances, I have no idea who he is. I don't even have an idea of what he looks like. And I'll tell you what each of the other High Lords look like as they become more relevant. I don't think I told you what Reason looks like. This is my Reason. Bookmark for a second the plot of the book. We have to talk about this Reason debate. So I saw an article a few days ago, and I made a TikTok about it. I saw an article a few days ago, and it was like, the perfect actor to play Reason in a Court of Thorns and Roses TV show is already too old to play the part. And I was like, who the hell could you possibly be imagining? Because again, this is my Reason. He just popped up on the scene. So I was like, who are they imagining that is too old to play Reason? Ian Somerhalder. I've seen The Vampire Diaries. I like Ian Somerhalder. Honestly, if I was going to pick an actor from The Vampire Diaries universe to play Reason, it wouldn't have even been Ian Somerhalder. I would probably have picked one of the Michelsons. However, Reason is described as having darker skin. So I wasn't thinking a white man, period. This is who I imagine as Reason. And if they do a Court of Thorns and Roses TV show, movies, anything, and their Reason isn't of color, I'm going to be so viscerally angry. I don't think y'all understand. And I'm not talking ethnically, racially ambiguous. I don't want a Taylor Lautner. Don't give me a guy who could probably pass for not white, but is actually white. I don't want that. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I honestly only want the Duke from Bridgerton, but I will allow other casting options as long as they're giving me a similar image to what this gives. Whatever. Back to the plot. So each of the High Lords gives Farah a kernel of her power, and there's this internal thing where she explains that, she was floating in this abyss, but then she felt a pull to go back to her body basically, and she pops back alive. But now she's a fae. She's not human anymore. She's fae. And everybody's like, oh my god, yay! Because she officially broke the curse. Everybody gets to go home, live happily ever after, in theory. And now she's back with Tamlin. Everything is hooray. Everybody gets their happy ending. So there's a couple of wrap-ups before they all leave under the mountain. At some point, she speaks to Reason. They have a really short conversation. I don't remember what it's about. They have a short conversation, and then she returns to the Spring Court with Tamlin, and that is officially the end of A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first book. Book 1 of Court of Thorns and Roses series, A Court of Thorns and Roses. This has been that in a nutshell. Thank you so much for joining my book club. I will see you guys next. At this point, I've told myself that if I upload once a month, I'm good. So I will honestly probably not see y'all again till November, and we will discuss the next book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, A Court of Mist and Fury. But thank you very much for listening to me ramble about this book for an hour. I love y'all. If you guys enjoy these book club videos, be sure to say so. Put recommendations in the comments. I have a ton of books that I will be discussing because there's a ton that I've already read that I'd love to have a chance to talk about and discuss. If you've read this book, tell me your thoughts. Only on the first one, though. Don't spoil it for the rest of the people who are waiting on the other videos. We're talking about the first book. Tell me what y'all thought. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. I'll see y'all next time. Wait. Hi. Okay, listen. This is book club. Not in a nutshell, but we still do the same thing, okay? at the end of all of my videos, ask a question for you all to answer down below in the comment section. This week's question, or this video's question, is going to be, what's your favorite type of candy? I don't think I've asked that one before, and if I have, whoopsie. My personal favorite candy, right now, I'm obsessed with high chews. I specifically really like the kiwi, the dragon fruit, and the green apple ones. They're so good. But also, personally, I can do pretty much any fruit-flavored candy. Give me a Starburst, I'm good. Skittles, love them. Sour gummy worms. I like a lot of sour candies, too. I'm really big on citrus flavors. I love a good sour candy. Love good Starburst. Ooh, I love a Starburst so much. And high chews, probably my favorite. So, yeah, tell me your favorite candies down below in the comment section. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, so that you don't miss my next upload, which will probably be, October. I think I said November earlier, but I meant October. Thank you so much for watching. This is the real end of a video. And I hope you enjoyed my very first book club. Bye for now.